is it about admitting we need help that makes us feel so exposed? Hey guys, I'm Sarah, your host of What's on Your Plate podcast. This space has always been one to have conversations that are hard, and today is no different. I will let you know that this discussion, while incredibly important, it may trigger some. The topic today is suicide, more specifically, suicide prevention. The information that's here has the power and potential to help you seek help or assist someone else to do so. My guest today is starting the conversation with a lot of facts, stats, and truths about the amount of people who die by suicide. While it may be staggering to hear, I encourage you to hang in there with us. The conversation that precedes it is helping us dig deeper and gain awareness while also diving into the importance of how we can learn to regulate ourselves and teach our kids to do the same. If you are in crisis now and need help now, dial 988. The Suicide Prevention and Crisis Lifeline is available 24/7, 365 days a year, and they can help you receive the support that you need. This is a big topic today. We're talking about one of the things many people won't, but refusing to do so could be the difference between life and death. If you're ready, come with me and listen in to this important episode. I am here today with my friend Trish. Trish Giese is here to talk to us today about the importance of removing the stigmas and myths that are surrounding talking about the very hard thing that is suicide prevention and awareness. Trish is a volunteer with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, or AFSP, and she gives talks on Talk Saves Lives, presents to people in a way that allows them to become aware, help look for signs, help look for things that we can do to help those around us as well as ourselves. Welcome, Trish.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I'm so excited that you're here. You are doing such important work in our community and in our world, and I am just in awe of the hard thing that you're doing and that you're putting out there every day and trying to help people navigate this part of the real reality of life.
Right. Well, honestly, it's something people don't talk about because there is that stigma attached to it, and it literally could affect anyone. And so just to give a brief overview, my daughters and I are survivors of suicide, and suicide profoundly affects many people. It is an unpredictable journey of grief that is a lifetime commitment of work. I mean, it's taken me 7.5 years to get here. But I thought, personally, I just don't want anybody to ever walk in the shoes that I have been through. And if I can give people tools and information to help them and to let people know that, well, we all hear this all the time, it's okay to not be okay. But people need to start talking about it. And honestly, dying by suicide is no different than dying by cancer or dying by, a heart attack. People use the term, and at this point of our lives now, it has shifted to, instead of saying committed suicide, people say they died by suicide. Committed suicide has such a negative connotation, and it is an illness. So my journey of healing has allowed me to speak openly about my loss and offer a message of hope for those that struggle. So suicide can be prevented, and there are, just like there's warning signs and risk factors for other health crisis like cardiac arrest or cancer, we can learn the warning signs and the signals and risk factors that can help us to prevent people from dying by suicide. as I said, it can be prevented. But there's some things that you can do. And I'm just going to give you some statistics about suicide that are quite alarming, but they're eye-opening, and it's an epidemic. On average, there are 130 suicides per day. Every 40 seconds, someone dies by suicide. Each year, it's estimated that 1.2 million people attempt suicide, which equates to, in the United States, 45,000 people. Suicide in the US is the 12th leading cause of death, according to the Center for Disease Control, I'm sorry. Okay, according to the World Health Organization, each year, approximately 80,000 people die by suicide. It's a global problem. And quite honestly, that's just what they know. A lot of the suicides are not reported. So they're assuming it's a bigger number than 80,000. Since July of 2022, nearly 3 million people have contacted the 988 suicide and crisis hotline, which, it just came out last year. You don't call 911, you call 988. And there are people online ready to help you, and hopefully get you connected with someone that can help you with mental health. Support has increased federal funding for the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline to expand access to life-saving services. People don't believe this, but asking for help is actually a sign of strength. So by learning the suicide warning signs, you're helping to save lives. So I would really like to address the language do's and don'ts, because, and I have learned this just through the process of being in this journey. But as I said before, people, when someone dies by suicide, they tend to say they committed suicide or they had a failed or successful attempt. In this day and age, we want to say they died by suicide, they ended their life, they killed themselves, they attempted suicide, or it was death by suicide. Like I said before, it's just the same thing as saying somebody died by a heart attack. And that was eye-opening for me, again, because of the stigma. So the large majority of people who die by suicide have a mental health condition contributing to their death, but that's not the whole story. It could be a culmination of different things. It could be a perfect storm of maybe health issues and job-related issues, and maybe something going on behind the scenes that we know nothing about. So people don't just consider suicide because they want their pain to end. It's also because they want to stop feeling like a burden to their family. And who do we always turn to when we have problems? It's our family. And a lot of times, and I'm speaking from experience, depression is a very tricky thing because you don't always see it. You can't tell a person, people hide it well. You can't tell they're going through depression. So even if you suspect that somebody is depressed or they're having anxiety, ask them, are you okay? That just ties back to the talk saves lives. That will validate their feelings, and they'll know that you care enough to ask them how they're feeling. They don't feel as alone instead of suffering in silence, which is what happens a lot. There's no single, but rather multiple intersecting factors of someone taking their life. Sometimes they can't envision a future they want to live in. Sometimes they don't believe that anyone cares about whether they are alive or not. And they feel they can't escape negative or intrusive thoughts. They believe others will be better without them. A lot of times with younger children or younger teens, they may have made a mistake and they believe it can't be solved or improved. And especially now, we see a big influx of people dying by suicide. And, with the pandemic occurring and people losing their jobs and, multiple things that just add up, they are tired of just reliving trauma. And that's trauma. The pandemic was trauma. Losing a job can be trauma. So, also, the brains of people who die by suicide differ than those who die from other causes in both structure and function. And that's something really important to keep in mind. Maybe somebody had a traumatic brain injury, or maybe they have something like low blood sugar that's affecting their brain if they're not being treated for it. So, those are some of the things that contribute to the brain not functioning properly. The risk factors, there's 3 risk factors from the research that I've looked into, and they're health, historical, and environmental. So health is what we've been talking about. Depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorders, eating disorders, personality disorders, psychosis, PTSD, and substance disorders also. For historical, that simply means there's a family history of suicide, or a family history of mental health conditions, or childhood abuse, or previous suicide attempts, or loss that they've been through. I don't know if you've ever heard of the ACE study, but the ACE study actually has been around for a while. And it's the terminology, or the acronym, is adverse childhood experiences. And they say there's actually a test out there that you can Google it and get the test and take it, and it will give you a score from 1 to 10. And the more ACEs you have, the more susceptible you are to mental health conditions, or kind of find out whether you fit in, or feeling comfortable, or not having a trauma-based background and coming to school and not knowing how to regulate your emotions. So the ACE study is, I think it's been around forever. Now it's not just about the ACE study. Many other things can contribute to somebody feeling as though they are not important enough to continue living. For environmental factors, access to lethal weapons, exposure or contagion, prolonged stress, and stressful life events can lead people to want to take their lives. So there's many protective factors in prevention that we can do to help others. Mental health care, unfortunately, I mean, that is like the number one thing. However, in this day and age, after the pandemic, it seems like mental health care professionals their schedules are full. It's hard to get in to see somebody. I know people are working hard to correct that, but family and community support can help. Problem-solving skills, cultural and religious beliefs can offer some help with that too. What you can do is have conversations. I think that is huge. It's not if somebody, a family member, if they are struggling, it is okay for you to, like I said before, ask them, are you okay? Do you need help? Do you need me to get a counselor for you? What can I do to help you? And then remind them, just be gentle with yourself. Everybody's going through something. There's not anybody out there that's not going through something. It's just having the means and the support to get through it. Somebody who may be considering suicide, if you talk to them, give them 24 hours to kind of process it. And generally, they say within 48 hours, that person isn't considering taking their lives, which I think is really important about having those conversations. So what to look for, suicide warning signs, it's all about talk, behavior, and mood. And I think this is so important. So warning signs for talk. If a person talks about taking their life, feeling hopeless, having no reason to live, or feeling like they have no reason to live, being a burden to others, feeling trapped, or feeling unbearable pain, those are warning signs that you need to talk about. Behaviors that may signal risk, especially if related to a painful event, loss, or change. So some of the signs are increased use of alcohol or drugs, looking for a way to end their lives, such as searching online for methods, withdrawing from activities, isolating from family and friends, sleeping too much or too little, visiting or calling people to say goodbye, giving away prized possessions. Like that is definitely a red flag. Or if they call you to say goodbye. Aggression sometimes is related to that, and fatigue. Like I said, they're either sleeping too much or sleeping too little. And then the warning signs for mood. People considering suicide often display one or more of the following moods. Relief, because they've made that decision and they've made peace with it. And they have actually disassociated themselves from anything that might remind them that, hey, this really isn't that bad. They've made their mind up. I've been told, and I have been through a lot of counseling, but I have been told it's like when they get to that point, it's like having blinders on, and they're not looking at anything else around them. They're disassociating themselves from everything around them, and they have the blinders on, and they're just looking forward because their decision has been made and nothing you can do can change it. They have anxiety, they're irritable, they have loss of interest in anything to do with family or friends or socializing. They may carry humiliation or shame. Depression goes with that. However, like I said, a lot of times you don't know somebody is depressed. They're agitated, or they may display anger. So the perspective of a suicidal person, and this is just from research based on suicide attempts and people that did not complete suicide, but they said that there's a crisis point that has been reached, that they don't think that there's any way out of it. They're desperate to escape the pain that they're going through. And like I said before, their thinking becomes limited and they disassociate from anything that means anything to them. So it's all about prevention, and trust your gut. If you wonder if someone is depressed or overly anxious, reach out to them. It doesn't hurt. Like that shows the people that you care about them and that you want them here in this life with you. Let's see. Did you have any questions so far?
You obviously have a lot of knowledge and you've done a lot of self-educating on all these amazing facts and insight on suicide prevention. How did you find yourself on this journey? Can you give us a little bit of a glimpse of just your healing journey and how you decided that healing yourself and helping other people was going to be part of the way that you stepped forward from your own experiences?
Sure. Okay. So looking back over the past 7.5 years, my first year was a fog. Like, I don't even know. I honestly don't even remember things that happened in that first year. I mean, it was the loss of someone very dear to my family, having to make some very important decisions about my future. And I read a book. I went on vacation, and I read a book, and I can get the name of it to you. I don't recall the name of it, but at the very end, they listed some resources, and I came upon one grief recovery program that was called it's from the Loss Organization, and it's based out of Catholic Charities in Chicago. And the facilitators all are just volunteers that have walked in these shoes. So they have experience in the journey of grief. And so I first started with a large group. There were 30 in there, and I walked out of there feeling incredibly heavy, because not only was I carrying my pain and my grief, I almost felt as though I was carrying all of theirs as well. So I spoke to one of the counselors there, and so she recommended and suggested that I go down to a smaller group. So I went to a group of 10 people, and that is exactly what I needed, because in a smaller group, you don't feel as alone. You can connect with people that have gone through the same thing as you. And it wasn't just, there was a different mix of people. So, losing brothers and parents and husbands and siblings. So, and we all stay connected still. From that point, I thought, okay, I've been through the loss organization, and then I went through my small group, so I'm good. Well, I wasn't. I just feel like it's continuous work on yourself. So then I found a place that specializes in grief recovery. So I participated in a grief recovery program, and it entailed a book study and writing, having homework every week and writing letters and journaling. And that was very, very helpful for me. But it didn't end there. I needed more. So I went through a cognitive processing therapy, which is what a lot of our military veterans go through when they have PTSD. And that is a weekly visit, including homework. And that, I think, helped me with the post-traumatic growth. So then fast forward maybe a year ago, it was about a year and a half ago, I took some courses through Butler University, and it was a master's program. It's a certification program, and it's the Applied Educational Neuroscience program there. And what it does is it teaches you scientific-based research on the brain. And I knew that I could use that in my classroom, but I also knew that it was going to be a personal journey, a healing journey for me. And it was twofold. It helped me in my grief journey. And it also helped me, I think, reinvent the way that I teach my students. I focus more on their mental health than I do the curriculum. And that's not to say I don't teach the curriculum. I do, but I've changed my routines and procedures so that we can incorporate some of these neuroscientific methods into my coursework with my students. Now, my students are 6 and 7 years old.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I really want you to be able to touch on that, because the importance of the work that you do with preventing is so critical, but probably more so even is what you're doing with your first graders. That's another thing that I really want people to understand, is that you are actually helping people at that young age learn their brains, learn about their brains and their bodies.
Yes. And it has become a passion of mine, because I know children have gone through a lot, and I know they come in carrying trauma. And a lot of times something may trigger them on the bus or activate them on the bus, and they come in dysregulated. And so I always start my day with a focused attention practice, which could be, it's similar to like a meditation practice or yoga, but we don't always do yoga. We will do a lot of breathing exercises. And we do things like the lotus blossom, where, we open up the fingers, and every time you do it, you open up one finger, you inhale, and then you exhale. And the exhales have to be so intentional, and they know that. It's amazing to watch them love doing the focused attention practices. I've taken away morning work and replaced it with that. And it works out really well. And it gets to the point where the students want to create their own and they want to lead the focused attention practices. I also have a regulation station in my room. So if someone's really feeling dysregulated, they don't even have to ask. They can get up and go over to the regulation station. And what I have is a kit. I have timers. They're 10-minute timers. And I have the Hoberman breathing ball where they can inhale and exhale. I have fidgets. I have sequin pillows that they can rub and it calms their nervous system. They know about their autonomic nervous systems, and we journal every day. So when they come in, they check in with their autonomic nervous systems, and that entails learning about their sensations. So in the beginning, it was hard to differentiate sensations versus emotions because it's an abstract concept for students at that age. So they have learned, and it's part of the polyvagal theory. So they have learned that a sensation is something you feel physically. So I've had students that have said they feel hollow, which means, I mean, what a great word. Instead of saying I'm sad, no, they feel hollow. They feel empty inside. And so they have this, I have this autonomic nervous system, and I wish I had a copy of it here, but if anybody wants a copy of it, I'd be happy to email it out to them. So they come in, they have their journals. When they open it up, they have their autonomic nervous system person, and it's laminated. So they highlight the area in their body. I mean, they can highlight a part of their brain or their fingers. Maybe they're feeling tingly or prickly is how they'll describe the sensation. Or maybe they feel butterflies in their stomach because they're nervous about something. And then they have to write a sentence. Today I feel blank. I've stressed to them that they won't be in that same sensation all day. We go through blended states all throughout the day. Like they could come in after lunch and they're feeling jumpy, or they're feeling creative, or maybe something happened at lunch and they're feeling shame. So they have the opportunity to go back to their autonomic nervous system journals, or I have a board that has the different sensations, and they can take I have brains made and I have their names on them. So they take their brain and they put it at which sensation they feel. And for 6 and 7-year-olds, it is mind-boggling that they grasp it so easily. I created a brain unit and I taught them about their prefrontal cortex and their amygdala. And if their amygdala shuts down, they're in fight or flight and they cannot get information to their prefrontal cortex. They know that the hippocampus stores memories. I mean, I tell them, you guys are neuroscientists. You are going to come out of this class knowing so much, and you're going to have a toolbox of strategies to help you. If you are feeling dysregulated, you know how to regulate yourself. I do have a funny story that I'd like to share. And this last year was the first year I implemented this in my classroom. So I had a little student come in, and I'm not going to say names, but she came in and she said, "Oh, Mrs. Giese, I'm so dysregulated." And I said, "Why? What happened?" And she said, "Well, I was pouring a glass of milk and I spilled it. And my dad said, 'I can't believe you're 6 years old and you don't know how to pour a glass of milk.'" And she said to him, or no, I said, "Honey, I'm so sorry. What did you say?" And she said, "I told him that it takes 60 times for me to do something in order for my brain to retain it." And I thought, oh my gosh, I taught her that. And here she is informing her dad that, maybe she has 50 more tries to go before she actually masters it. So I said, "What did he do?" And she said, "He sent me to my bedroom." And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I said, "What did you do when you got to your bedroom?" And she said, "I did a focused attention practice." And she told me which one she did. It's called the cupcake, and they have to inhale and blow out the candle. Inhale and blow out the candle. And they do it like 5 to 8 times. And she regulated herself, but that is because she had a toolbox of strategies to use, and she knew exactly what to do. And I was so proud. I wasn't happy that she called me out for saying it takes 60 times to retain something. But I mean, to me, that was like a validation for me that, wow, this is actually working and they're getting it and they're understanding it. And the bottom line is they're using it. They're using what they know and applying it in situations that they need. So I absolutely love that.
That is just phenomenal. And I'm actually like really impressed that she called you out to her dad, because I mean, she taught him something, hopefully. I mean, he did send her to her room, I guess, but maybe he thought about it later and reconsidered that course of action, because our first graders are teaching us as parents. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I know that listeners, I'm going to speak for myself and many of my listeners are listeners when I say, I wish you had been my first grade teacher.
Aww.
Because the things that you are instilling in these kids is so critical and so important for just humaning in the world, that it's just like, it's invaluable what you're teaching these children and how to become into themselves. And I hope it just becomes the trend and the norm and becomes the thing and all.
In fact, I have another story to share, which to me, that's when I thought, oh my gosh, with all the information that I have on suicide prevention, and I don't talk to my students about it, I just feel that would be so inappropriate at this time, but because I'm providing them tools to have a voice and to have a sense of felt safety and to feel secure and feel heard and seen, is huge to me. I mean, that's what it's all about. You're giving your students a feeling of felt safety and the voice to talk about how they're feeling. So when we do check in with their autonomic nervous system journals, they're brave. Like, they are brave. They do not hesitate to talk about, well, you know, I'm feeling really sad. And one student said that, and I said, oh, honey, why do you feel sad? And he said, because I just lost my grandma. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry you feel that way. Where do you feel sad? And he said, in my brain. And I said, I bet you feel it in your heart too, don't you? And he said, yes. And for the rest of the day, he was fine. And it's just, I think, because he felt validated, sharing how he felt, and I acknowledged it and gave him that platform to explain how he's feeling. So I feel like moving forward, and especially with men, because the statistics of suicide are higher in men. And that's not to say that the statistics are getting higher with women at this point in our lives. But I thought, you know what, if I can teach them that it's okay to talk about how you're feeling, be it positive or negative, that's going to help them in the future. They won't be afraid to voice their feelings and say, you know, and I'm not feeling right. Something is making me dysregulated. I need to talk to somebody.
I love that word too, dysregulated. That's not a word that you hear very often, especially with our youth. And I think, again, I mean, you are teaching them such important tools to navigate things moving forward. And the amount of times kids are told, or even just adults, I had a conversation recently with a friend, somebody else telling her how she should feel, or somebody else telling her what she should be feeling in an instance when she's just where she's at. She's exactly where she's supposed to be within herself, but somebody's trying to tell her something else.
Right.
And to teach kids and adults that they can be exactly where they're at and it's okay is so important, and that you don't have to be any certain way.
Yeah, you need to validate their feelings, whether it's positive or negative. You can't tell somebody how they feel. Even in my journey, people would say, oh yeah, I know how you feel. Well, no, actually you don't. You know what I mean? It's like, just validate that I hear you,
Mm-hmm.
and what can I do to help?
Yes. How can I support you today?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. It
And
is.
and I think that people, they do find comfort in maybe other people that have been down the same path as them, which when you're talking to people who have been down a similar road as yourself, I think that is very relatable. But at the same time, like you said, you don't know exactly how that other person is feeling, because their journey, though it's similar, is very different from your own.
Right. Yeah. There's a book that just came out by Dr. Lori DeSautel, who's from Butler University. It's called Intentional Neuroplasticity. And it is a phenomenal book. And it teaches you that the beauty of your brain is there's plasticity in it. And just because you have an experience happen to you doesn't mean that you cannot, I guess, move towards growth, which is plasticity. Your brain, you're rewiring your brain for more positive experiences. And the more positive experiences that you have, it makes those negative experiences go on the back of your brain. So you're moving those positive experiences forward, so that intentional neuroplasticity. So I want people to understand that, because it is, your brain is, there's plasticity in your brain, and you may have a traumatic event happen to you, but through post-traumatic growth, you're making new connections in your brain, and which are positive. Like, there is hope in that. You're not going to be stuck in one place for the rest of your life.
Right.
It's all about new experiences
Wouldn't
and
it,
positive experiences.
right. Wouldn't it be a lot like manifesting, like telling yourself and working on your mindset in a way that is not dwelling in the negative, but working on always seeing the positive?
Absolutely. The glass is always half full, right?
It doesn't mean that the negative is gone, right? It doesn't mean that the grief is gone. You're always going to have those types of things in your life. But if you can uplift the good and the joy and the delights a little bit higher, I think that that is how you would just find that better state of mind to be peaceful within the chaos.
Right, right. And the more you expose yourself to those positive experiences, the less you're going to feel the negative experiences. And just because someone carries it well does not mean it's not heavy. But
Correct. I love that point.
I do too. And I'm a walking example of that. Like, there are days when I wake up and, the grief journey is not linear at all. It is a roller coaster. And sometimes you have to dig deep. And especially for me, I'm an Academy Award winning actress when it comes to my first graders. Even if I'm sad or thinking about my life, when I get into that room, I have to turn it on and be positive for them, because it's emotional contagion. They pick up on how you are feeling.
Yes.
So, and it's a beautiful thing, actually, when you think about it.
It's connection. And I feel like at the end of the day, that's what we are supposed to be doing here in this human experience, is connecting with people. And
Right.
like so many other things that are true about children, they are more honest and forthright in the way that they live than the way that we've been trained as adults to.
Right. Yes. Yes. I love that, because children are more forgiving. They're more open-minded. They want to be happy. They don't come to school intentionally wanting to make a bad choice. There's just so much goodness in them. So I just think people need to be gentle with themselves and give themselves grace. And as I've come to learn, we're all going through something. There's nobody out there that's not experiencing something. It's just having the tools to work through it and move forward. And I just feel if people would adopt this mindset, this positive mindset, I really feel like the world would be a better place.
I agree with you.
And
And,
it starts now. It starts now.
for sure. And you can start right where you're at. You haven't lost anything if you haven't started yet, and you're, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever it is, like start right where you're at. It's still valuable. But on that note, I mean, why do you think we believe that we should just be able to get through things on our own rather than getting the help that is so critical?
Right. It takes a village, and there is nothing wrong with saying, hey, I need help. I need a mental health professional, or even just a friend to come over and sit with me. I mean, there's absolutely no reason anybody should feel they can't help or ask for help.
Why do you think people are reluctant to ask for help?
I just think it goes back to the stigma. Like, nobody wants to look like they're struggling. And I think social media plays into that too. It's, people that are on social media a lot of times, and I'm not saying everyone, but they're projecting this positive image or this perfect world. And I think that's why we have a lot of mental health issues in middle schools and high schools. And I don't know, I just wish there were more stipulations on that.
There's a conversation that I had in this space previously with Angie Areola. She is a youth counselor, and she said a very similar thing about kids on social media, that one of the major differences between their childhood experiences and what we may have experienced is that there's no respite from the things that are hard. There's no respite from bullying or traumas that they might endure at school, because they go home and they see it all over their socials. They're not just leaving school and finding safety in their homes or wherever they're going after that. Right. And I think it's a huge problem.
Right. We talk to our students about finding a trusted adult, or maybe 2 to 3 trusted adults. So if you need a break, who do you want to go talk to? Who is your trusted adult? And they understand that. And they usually pick like the school counselor and maybe the principal and maybe another teacher, but they need to have those resources. They need to be able to, if they're having a bad day, go see your trusted adult. That's what they're there for.
Right. Yeah. And she had spoke on that as well, finding your safe person. And it isn't necessarily a parent either. Tell me a little bit about, I wonder if we can dig a little bit deeper into why the stigmas with talking about these things that are so hard. Talking about it is something that obviously helps. So why are people so afraid? What is it about speaking out loud about things like suicide that makes people recoil?
I have questioned that over and over again. And I think the only answer I have, be it right or wrong, is people think it's a sign of selfishness or weakness. And we both know that's not true. But I've heard people say that, oh, that's so selfish of them. How could they do that to their family? Or they're weak if they can't handle whatever it is going on or get themselves to a mental health professional. They're weak. So that's just my interpretation of why the stigma still carries on. Although I do think we're getting better with that. I really do. And that's very hopeful.
For sure. And I think there has been improvement as well in that regard, just as over the last several years, mental health awareness in general seems to be being put more in the spotlight than it used to. So I think that's great news, of course. And, understanding too, that it circles back to your point earlier in this conversation about, if somebody had died of a heart attack or of cancer or any other physical ailment, nobody would be hesitating to speak on it. Nobody would be saying, oh, I need to, make a lifestyle change so I don't go down the same path and, have heart disease or diabetes or potentially cancer. We would all be stepping up our health game. But when it comes to mental health, it's still a work in progress a little bit.
Right.
A lot of it.
I keep this little post-it at my desk, and they're mental health reminders, because I mean, it's not always perfect for me either, but I have to remind myself healing is always possible. Please do not keep feelings inside. Again, that's that trusted adult or a coworker or someone you just feel really safe with. And also I have on my little mantra, you're never alone. And I have definitely learned that. I have my tight group that always checks in with me. And my children too, they check in with them, and lean on others when life is rough. Like, because if they lean on us, we're going to lean on them if they're having a hard time. We're all in this together. That's what people, I feel, miss. We are all in this thing called life together. And struggling doesn't mean you're weak. Everybody struggles, whether it's like even if you're in sports and you're having a slump in baseball or whatever, you struggle from that. So we need to prioritize mental health also.
For sure. And one of the things that you and I had talked about previously is this can happen to anybody. Suicide does not discriminate
exactly
against any walk of life. And some of the seemingly happiest, most successful, most fulfilled people that the world has ever seen have lost their lives to suicide.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we even see it in famous people, and everybody thinks their lives are so perfect.
The person that comes to mind from a famous standpoint, people that were shocked to learn the way he left this world was Robin Williams, a comedian that always had a smile, that always made other people laugh, that made it his literal life and business to make other people smile, was desperately struggling inside.
Exactly. And he hit it well.
Right. And I think that we are amongst people like that every day. So it's an awareness that everything that we do while we walk around on this earth is important. The kindness that you show to everybody, strangers, people those closest to you, is so critical. Reaching out, like you're saying, are you okay? And you know what, by the way, it's okay if you're not okay. But I'm here and I'm with you, and let's get you some help. All those things are so important, and you just never know what someone's going through.
Right. Yeah. I think my mission or my passion now is I want to change how society understands mental health and suicide, because when we open up and connect, it goes to that, back to that, it's that talk saves lives. Like when we connect with people that are struggling, I just think it makes that person that is struggling feel valued, and that you care enough to ask them if they're okay, and you're willing to get them the help they need.
Yes. And I want to ask you more about the Talk Saves Lives program. I know that your participation and volunteering with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has become a passion of yours based on your own experiences, and that has become part of your purpose moving forward. And I really want you to share with us just your part in the program and the importance of it, and how you are serving in this way.
Right. So I'm new. This is a new journey for me. But I went through the training, and my actual original goal was to talk to the AFSP about getting mental health programs for middle school and high school students, because I think that is something that is missed. It's just overlooked. But I signed up for the Talk Saves Lives training first, and then I found out eventually, and I told my trainer, I'm a teacher and I would love to get this into the schools, but the Talk Saves Lives program that I do, it is specifically designed for 18 and over. So they actually are getting ready to come out with some training for middle school and high schools. And I just think that if guidance counselors or principals are listening to this, or superintendents, it's time. It's time that kids understand that they have resources out there to help them. Like I said, we need to prioritize it. And it's done by having one conversation at a time and empowering people to talk and seek help and thrive.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And the Talk Saves Life program, am I understanding correctly that it's a blanket program, but does it also differentiate and dial in more to specific groups as well? Like I believe there was Talk Saves Lives for seniors, Talk Saves Lives for LGBTQ, Talk
Right.
Saves Lives for other groups as well, veterans, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I think this one is more for people, not people that are considering suicide. It's for people that are 18 and older, adults that either know somebody that's considering suicide, or maybe they're like me and they have walked in those shoes and they want to help other people. I never want anybody to go through what I went through. So I think that's what this program is designed for, to let people know that if talk is so critical, talking, and people ignore it, they turn the other cheek. They don't say, hey, are you okay? They don't. I'm guilty of that. I'm not now. Like, people probably get tired of me asking them, but I'm not going to stop.
No, and I'm glad you're not going to stop. I'm glad to hear that, because whether people want to hear it or not, it's an important advocacy, and people tend to not put much emphasis on things that don't or haven't personally affected them. I think that's true for a lot of different things, a lot of different topics of conversations where they somehow lack the empathy to associate with it because it hasn't personally affected them. And I think that's problematic, because I think that it's not any different than being empathetic and trying to do something about poverty or illiteracy. So I think if more people realize that just because it isn't specifically affecting your life doesn't mean it's not an important cause. It would be a wonderful improvement on just branching out the awareness. And I'm so glad that people like yourself have found purpose in their trauma. Healers are people that have also healed and been through healing. The best healers out there have healed themselves.
And I'm not saying it's perfect, but
well, it never will be. It never is. But I think that's part of what makes you relatable. Yes.
Yeah, it is work. And it's not a one size fits all journey either. And you have to find a mental health professional that is a good fit. I've gone through quite a few that they just were not prepared to deal with what I needed the help with, if that makes sense.
It does. And I'm glad you were relentless in your pursuit, because I think a lot of people would have just sort of given up on that and said, nobody can help me, this isn't going to work, and I'm just going to keep it to myself type of mindset. So I'm glad that you pushed on. And I hope that that's a message for other people to continue too. If the first time doesn't work out, just keep going.
Right. Yeah, it's not a one size fits all,
Mm-mm,
definitely.
definitely not. There's a lot of ways that people can get help. But speaking up is probably the most important thing to get that started.
Mm-hmm. And they say trust your gut. If you're with someone and you're sensing that something's not right, ask them. Assume that you are the only one that's going to reach out to this person.
Mm-hmm.
They may not have somebody else ask them, or
Right.
somebody may be afraid to ask them, or maybe they hide their feelings from somebody else. But
Right.
just go with your gut. I think that is huge.
I think if somebody gives you a glimpse of themselves, it's something that you should take very seriously. If somebody gives you any kind of indication at all that they trust you enough to share something that is happening inside of them, pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. That, I don't know. And people feel they have to apologize for expressing their feelings. Stop apologizing. It's how you feel, and that's okay.
Right. Right. I think that's a valid point too, because like we spoke earlier, even just the tears that we shed are a gift of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
to other people, and stop apologizing for that as well, because why are you going to apologize for just your being your own self?
Right. Yeah. And I learned that myself. I used to be the apologizer.
For sure, me too. And I think we apologize because it's not so much that we're sorry that we're crying or that we're upset, but we realize it makes other people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But that has really nothing to do with ourselves and everything to do with the other person needing to work on why that's making them uncomfortable.
Right. And even I've grown to the point where if somebody says something that is hurtful, if they don't know your story, and they might say, oh, I've had such a bad day, I should just take my life, and they're saying it tongue in cheek. But I'm now to the point by saying, hey, you can't say that in this day and age. Like, you don't know who you're talking to. Like,
Right.
you could be talking to somebody that's walking in those shoes, and they have their shield up. They're not going to share with you how they're feeling.
Right. That's a very valid point as well.
It's happened quite a few times. I mean, just changing that language. People should realize it's inappropriate to talk like that.
Right. I think it's important to have an awareness and have a sensitivity to just what's going on in somebody else's mind and life, and just be cautious.
Right. And another thing that I feel I want people to know is you are worth the space that you take up.
Yes.
You are so worth the space that you take up. I mean, everybody brings something to the table, and everyone is special, and it's okay to choose yourself. But there's always hope. There's always hope. And that's, if anybody can get anything out of this conversation, I want them to know there is always hope. I am 7.5 years in, and there's hope. Like, it is a beautiful thing.
I'm so proud of the work that you're doing, Trish, and just
Thank you.
the way that you have just made it your mission now to, again, help other people walk through a similar path that you have, and help prevent people from having to walk a similar path that you have, is just an amazing service to our world. What do you want to say as we come to a close today? What would you like to leave us with?
I think it collectively, I want to change how society understands mental health and suicide. I would love to get rid of the stigma. I would love for people to understand that you can find that trusted adult and they're there to help you. You can pick up, if you feel like you don't have anybody, call 988. They're there to help you. They're trained professionals to help you. And I just want everybody to realize how special they are and that everybody's human and everybody has a bad day. You know, it's life is not perfect, but we have to make the best of it and we have to just keep moving forward. So that's what I would like people to take away from this. And I'm going to say it again, there's hope. There is hope and there's post-traumatic growth. And it's a beautiful thing because you can find that you can find your passion and you can find that you can reach down and dig deep and reinvent yourself.
I love that. I love that.
I mean, I'm
so
still
much.
who I am.
Yeah.
But I have a different outlook on life. And I don't want people to struggle. If I had a magic wand, I would love to make everybody better. But
well, you're working on it every day. And that is the magic, is you showing up like you are and sprinkling that fairy dust over the people that you're speaking to, the children that you're influencing. That is your magic. And thank you. And just keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep showing up. The people needs more Trish Gieses.
thank you. My goal in my classroom, because teachers are so overworked and overwhelmed, and I get it, but if you could just squeeze in 5 to 10 minutes it's all about connections and touch points and validation. And if they could just take those 5 to 10 minutes and allow children to talk about their feelings and, you know, have that felt sense of safety. And I'm starting in first grade, so it's carrying into second grade. Then I hope second grade carries it into third grade. I just hope it's something that my students keep that invisible toolbox and dig into whenever they need it. And I truly believe that they will.
Yeah, I have no doubt. You've made that obvious just based on the stories that you've shared about the kids that are taking this important information home. I'm sure that there's many more stories out there that you just haven't heard, but they're all absorbing it. And that's amazing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me on and taking the time to hear my story and let me talk about suicide prevention and Talk Saves Lives, and even the neuroscience that I'm doing in my classroom. And I just appreciate this platform that you have for people so that they can listen and learn, and it's nothing they have to take time. They could listen to it in their cars. It's just a great platform that you're sharing with everybody.
Well, thank you for that. And, you know, this conversation is quite possibly one of the most important ones that I'll ever publish and share. And I thank you just for your willingness to be part of it and to give us so much information on this really important big thing that is, you know, hopefully the stigma is starting to break down a bit. Trish, tell us how we stay connected with you and where to find you.
Okay, so if anyone is interested in me doing a Talk Saves Lives presentation, they can just reach out to me. My email is trish_giese@yahoo.com. I will work in communities. I'll go to schools. I can do it virtually on Zoom to make your life easy. If you say, I don't have time to do that, I'll set up a Zoom and I would be happy to present there. So please reach out to me. It's so needed. And I just assume that you are the only one that someone is going to reach out to. And if you hear the presentation about Talk Saves Lives, I think it'll put things into perspective for you.
Yeah, I think so too. And for our listeners, all of the ways to stay connected with Trish will be in the show notes, ways to find find her email directly. Information on AFSP, as well as the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, will be linked as well. So check it out, share it, and keep it close, because this is a ongoing thing that sadly isn't going away, but is hopefully getting better with the help of people like Trish Giese.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trish. Have a fantastic day.
You too. I'll see you soon.
As I mentioned, ways to connect with Trish are in the show notes, as is the information for the AFSP. If you walk away with nothing else after listening today, remember that you are not alone and help is available. Every single one of us is here on purpose for a purpose. Your everyday truth is that this world is a better place because you're in it. Please share this conversation. You might just be part of a solution someone didn't know that they had. You heard it a couple times here already, but I'm going to say it again. 988. That is the 24/7, 365 days a year lifeline that anyone can call to receive help and support if they are ever having thoughts of ending their life. Let's have the conversations. Let's remove the stigmas and normalize getting help. Much love to all the listeners out there. And to Trish, thank you for being so brave. Thank you for finding purpose within your pain. You are so needed. Until next time.